Dr. Dev, for the nice, kind introduction. And I'm extremely sorry that I had to skip the session in the morning simply because I was called back for a meeting with JNU. And being in online mode, we are committed to be in many places more than what it would have been if it had been on an offline. I was there during the first session, and I feel very encouraged to see the amount of interest that has been moved from the Japanese front. Because if you look at the history of Japan-India relations, from 2000 till around 2011-12, till around 2013, we were more or less working towards developmental and economic front. And then we had a short, brief period when we moved strongly towards security and strategic. And I'm very happy to see that the developmental aspect of Japan's collaboration with India is in full force back and very much in a locality that is critically in need of kind of integration with respect to development, connectivity and all kinds of collaborations in which Japan participates through its AIDS program. I would like to, in the initiation, flag a few things that have become critical for Japan also with respect to their aid program, and therefore how Northeast India can be a very good area in which they can promote, and we should take advantage of this. Given United Nations SDG policies, that is Sustainable Development Goals, and which Japan has incorporated it into their own various policies, including domestic policies, in where various prefectures have been moving towards sustainable development programs through goals through various programs. The aid program has also become part of wanting to be in that sustainable development, promoting sustainable development goals through their aid programs, and therefore conservation of forests with respect to water conservations, etc., has become a very important way of promoting this. And this is where I think we in Northeast India can really benefit, because this is one locality in which, if you look at our own geographical thing, we have a large amount of water bodies, etc., available, and sort of encourages us to look at the water conservations, forest conservations, all that, which has been already talked about in this program, in these deliberations that has happened since morning. What I would like to focus, therefore, is that what I have in interaction with Sabyasachi been told, that you're looking at 5 C's, and in which connectivity, capability, conservation, culture being the prominent ones. There are interestingly few things that comes to forefront, even with our own foreign minister recently in Assam has talked about how Assam can become a conduit towards this whole connectivity. And today, our Japan ambassador, Suzuki-san, also talked about 2 bridges being built with respect to increasing connectivity. Connectivity goes hand in hand with developing capability, and therefore, if it is in connectivity that government to government interactions are essential, and that is what we have really gone forward with. But what has always gone missing, even in previous engagements with Japan's aid program, is that we have not been able to make use of the capability sector capabilities with respect to the connectivity. If I look at capability that can originate within this region, obviously the fact that, the strength of the region with respect to capability is the fact that it has essentially been a Princeton locality with not much of industrialization. And therefore, green technology can become a very good option out here. And there wouldn't be any case of, issues of, the other technology not technologically oriented industries not wanting to give up that technology, and therefore litigations, etc. So you have a clean canvas, you can move in for green technology. So this is one aspect, I think, in which collaborations can be sought. And this is a capability that can be drawn through the skill development program that we have in our, which we have initiated in our Indian economic program policy making, where we can use the skill development program, Atmanirbhar program, to encourage people to get into the green technology aspect. The second thing that I would like to flag with respect to capability is the fact that we have so much of English speaking skilled youth in the program, which is in the current, just the previous session you have talked about, and I was very happy to see the Toyota program of having taken nurses to that country. Aging population in Japan is definitely causing a lot of anxiety with respect to not medical care, but the health care of older people. There are now options that has been created where prefectural level they have people who go to various old people home to, and old people stationed in independent houses to take care of their medication with their other essential hygiene levels, etc., that is required. It is in this kind of situation where, if you look at the previous outings when we wanted nurses to go to Japan, the issue that happened was their capability of Japanese language was needed to be at a much higher level. But in this particular situation, the level of Japanese that could be needed can be quite made more basic. And so long they are able to conduct themselves with certain amount of ease in language, I'm sure we could work out something much more defined and more critical need which is there in Japan to what we have as a good human resource. So this is the second capability that I think can be drawn upon. We can also draw upon the same human resource which is good in English to become part of the service sector that promotes business processing options, which is through the connectivity, of course, of 5G, that is, needing of internet-based connectivity, which is where I think, again, the government has to first promote it, create that base infrastructure to encourage this. This sector, again, is a very uh, good sector in the sense it en masse a low skilled workers, and it also ensures there's not much of issue of environmental concerns. So these two can be, this is the second sector that can be encouraged in this particular region. The third sector that can be encouraged, I feel, with capacity building in Northeast region is to do with creating options of community development through, looking at, say, for instance, so much as talked about with respect to bamboo. Bamboo as a biomass fuel has been promoted in Kumamoto prefecture. I'm sure my Japanese, scholars out here might also be bringing this into it, that bamboo as a biomass fuel, and it is doing a good job out there. So probably an option of actually visiting, seeing how it is conducted, and then probably trying to transfer it back into the Northeast states could be one option, which is something that is again going to be very useful, and it is renewable, it's green, it's clean. So all those factors, which is essentially something that one should be concerned about when one moves into Northeast region, it can be a very good option out there. These are the three capability areas that I thought could be interestingly used. But the fourth, and that is where I'm not very sure, we might have to work it out, is with respect to food processing sector. While food processing sector, Japan is one of the lead countries with respect to food processing, but however, food processing sectors does have a concern of environment. So I'm not so well aware of this sector with respect to what kind of environmental concerns that it creates. So, and if there can be a green alternative to, but the food processing sector can be a very good alternative, especially when we are looking at connectivity through Bangladesh and to the Indo-Pacific zone, and also with respect to the fact that you're going to look at waterways as a movement for goods and services. So this is another sector in the capacity building that we can look over. As far as conservation of conservation sector areas, that one is of course doing a great job with respect to forestation as well as clean water conservations and all. But conservation these days, as one sees it, is always promoted also through by building capacity of tourism, and there has been talk today in which ecotourism has been spoken about. I think tourism for Japanese, it would be a very good way of integrating or getting Japan to look at India in this sector, because Japan has a large tourist interest and people do go a lot abroad. Of course, under the COVID situation, everything is at a halt, but one expects that we would be going back to certain amount of normalcy. And if we can promote this region as a safe and easily accessible, which is something that we are trying to by building good airports, we can look at good ecotourism in which you promote the country as a country, as a locality which represents so much of Japan and yet not in Japan. That kind of a concept can be built around that concept. And of course, tea is something that, of course, the ocha and the tea of India is very, very different. But however, an element of adventure can be built into this whole concept by creating, tea drinking options, or, something like what you have wine drinking, you make it into a tea drinking options, etc. These are a little far-fetched options that can be created, but provided we can create the connectivity and the capability before you can actually venture into this aspect. Culturally, I think there are a lot of strong, nuanced movement between people to people's exchange as far as Japan and in the northeast region of India goes. But one should remember that in northeast there is a strong influence of Korean culture through their Korean TV, etc. And this is where I think a huge competition exists with respect to, for Japan, with respect to South Korea. And this Hanyu, as they call it, the cultural revolution of South Korea. So we should, I think from our end, if we want to promote Japan in this, we should ask ourselves what all kind of programs or etc. that can be embedded into the dissemination of Japanese culture through some amount of Japanese, what is so commonly favored as cereals, etc. of South Korea, which has got a similar thing in Japan, which is quite common sometime, and try to push those kind of cereals into these northeast states, such that you actually create an image of Japan and therefore interest in Japan. This is something that I have personally witnessed. I have a lot of North Korean, Northeast Asian, Northeast regions students coming to JNU who want to do Korean studies simply because they have got influenced by Korea during their growing up years by watching Korean TV. So I think attempt to promote Japan through some TV serials, etc., could be a good option for us to create an image building in respect to culture. I think with this, I shall stop today, and I think we can throw open and ask, debate among ourselves what else can be done. And I think I'll give the show back to Dr. Day to carry it forward. Thank you.